In my second reading speech, I talked about my adventure to the National Archives around the corner and some of the documentation I saw. I also want to let the House know I also got to see some wonderful documents from our history. Documents, police records from the Wairau Fray, a wanted poster of Hone Heke, found literally between the pages of another book only weeks before, transcripts from the Pākehū murders, immortalised in Heavenly Creatures, but also something which I think is instructive for us today. I found some wonderful photographs of the New Zealand Expeditionary Force in Egypt over World War II, where some, no doubt good-intentioned army soldier, decided to paste all these wonderful pictures into a book, thereby wrecking them. And I think that's the metaphor for today. What we're doing is, I don't doubt the good intentions. I don't think the government dislikes archives or dislikes the National Library. They're going into it good intentions, but what we're going to see is bad consequences. I'm a historian by academic training, and those old adages ring true. Know your history, know where you've come from to know where you're going. And the risk is we're going to be repeating the mistakes we made in the 1990s when these departments were separated, and we're going to have to go through a whole process once again of disaggregating them. Part 3 of this bill amends the Public Records Act 2005. Now, what we're talking about isn't a dusty old collection of old papers. We're talking about important taongas, treasures of our New Zealand culture and our history. We're also talking about important constitutional features of our democracy in New Zealand. I want to repose the questions I heard on the Select Committee from the New Zealand Historical Association. Is it broke? No. Is it best practice we're adopting today? No. Does it take us backwards? Yes. Are there risks with this legislation? Yes. Those risks we're talking about are the independence of the archives and the great work they're doing, the safe custody of our national taonga. We're talking about the risks to our international image, and we're also talking about tītiriti impacts. Firstly, when we look at the risks to the independence of the New Zealand archives, what this bill does is downgrade the chief archivist from a chief executive down to simply an employee. That person's going to be legislatively accountable, yet he's going to have, or her, going to have financial, organisational, authoritative means counting against her, because basically the chief executive, that third tier employee, is going to have to comply with the culture of the Department of Internal Affairs, the strategic direction of the Department of Internal Affairs, and also the financial direction. That means their independence, it's not just an academic debate we're having, will be eroded. Now, the Minister talks about the Crown Law Report, but didn't mention how rushed it was, and didn't talk about the fact that it's not like the Passport Office, which was his example. We're talking about important constitutional roles in our democracy. And the risk is our chief executive, downgraded to a third-tier official, is going to have all the burdens of administration work within the hierarchical structure of the DIA, but they're also not going to have the ability to sit on the executive team to actually make a difference. So really what we're talking about is the worst of both worlds. Secondly, there was a good change which was made in committee, which was deleting most of the clauses between 47 and 58, which means those public records are going to be retained in the possession of Archives New Zealand and not in the Department of Internal Affairs. There were legitimate concerns by people who have and would like to donate items in the future. What we're talking about is very differentiated roles between the two different departments being taken over. On one hand, we've got the Department of Internal Affairs, which looks after items like censorship, and on the other side we've got this important constitutional role to manage our archives well. As the Longi papers in the Department of the National Archives show, or WikiLeaks show...
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member, but the time has come